Good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome to you all on behalf of Bharata Vidyacharcha Kendra, Bardhaman. It is the first session of the third and final day of the 19th annual conference of the organization. As you all know, the theme of this year's is Interrogating Societal Crisis and Configuring Responses, Indian Perspectives. In this session, we shall be looking at the sub-theme economic crisis. In this session, we have two very esteemed resource persons. Number first, Professor Rajagopal Dhar Chakraborty from University of Calcutta, and second, Professor Borun Kanjilal from Indian Institute of Health Management Research, Jaipur. We will start off today with Professor Rajagopal Dhar Chakraborty, who is the head Department of South and Southeast Asian Studies at University of Calcutta. Till recently, he was the director of the Indian Institute of Social Welfare and Business Management. He was the registrar of the University of Calcutta for a year and was also university's deputy registrar. He has been a professor of economics and demography in the same university since August 2002. He is also He is also an international faculty with the United Nations International Institute on Aging at Malta. Professor Chakraborty was in the court of Manipur University as a nominee of the President of India, was also a nominee of the President of India in the selection of faculty members at Sikkim National University, studied at Calcutta University, the London School of Economics, and the East India's East-West Center in Hawaii. Professor Chakraborty has taught at the Center for Development Studies, Trivandrum, and St. Xavier's College, Calcutta, and various other institutions in India and abroad. He was a visiting professor at St. Thomas University, Tianjin University, Nankai University, Renmin University. Professor Chakraborty is a recipient of the Ford Foundation sponsored Asia Fellowship and researched extensively on aging patterns in China. He is a recipient of Wellcome Trust postdoctoral fellowship. Professor Chakraborty has several publications on subject of aging and political economy. I now request Professor Rajagopal Dhar Chakraborty to deliver his lecture. His topic today is COVID-19 and its economic impact. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Shayantini, for inviting me to this Bharatiya Vidya Charcha Kendra. I'm really excited to talk to you, and I'm sure people are listening to Facebook or other kind of social media. Normally, we are used to addressing people face to face, but COVID-19 has popularized this concept of talking virtually. Technology was there, but it was not popular, and COVID-19 made us use it at a at all possible levels. Yes, Anthony and Professor Borun Kanjilal, if my memory goes correctly, I met him sometime in early 1990s at IIHMR at Jaipur. And anyway, so this is the occasion to of remembrance. I now just want to come straight to my presentation. And Shantani, ladies and gentlemen who are listening to me, I must say that I don't intend to make it very academic. Uh, mm, I leave it to Professor Kanjal to make it a very academic presentation. I'll make it a very simple presentation because I understand that we have a lot of responsibilities of sharing truth, and unfortunately, it could not be done. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have titled, if you allow me to share my presentation screen, and yes, I would like to present. Uh, just hang on a second. So I would like to talk to you, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the interruptions and technicalities. You all understand that has its own way of functioning, and if Pralay would not have been there, I would have difficulties that he guided me properly. I say that I talk to you about economic impact of COVID-19, some of the untold facts. I understand that Bharatiya Vidya Churcha, they are interested in understanding India, and I want to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, that what happened to India and how we tackled this COVID-19. And I don't like to give a much elaborate description about COVID-19, but I would like to say something that what we have done so far, and which was not highlighted in our. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, you all know that COVID-19 affected over 11 crores of people all over the world, and it affected almost to 21 countries, and we had a long lockdown, not only India, China, France, Italy, you know that. Several other countries have implemented lockdown. And in our country, we have 1.1 crore infections and 1.6 lakh deaths. You all are familiar with this information. I don't like to take much time on that, but you know that some of the things which some of us are fairly aware, but some of the listeners may not be aware that we managed COVID rather well. But unfortunately, we don't have much of this sharing. We have deaths in 1,113, which is the fifth lowest among the 50 most affected nations. And you see that people talk about corona case as if, you know, that we have done nothing much. You know, that we have done so for 21 crore corona testing next to United States, which has 35 crore. And if you see that case fatality rate, CFR, India is 1.4% compared to 2.9 in UK, and Germany and Canada had 2.5, and USA, Canada 1.8. You know, we are doing fairly well as far as corona deaths are concerned. And finally, we have so far vaccinated 13.1 million people. And this figure is higher than technically advanced country like Israel. And yes, US, China, and England ahead of us, but know that we are doing fairly well. And not only that, not only we have vaccinated our own people, but we have sent anti-coronavirus vaccines to many countries, from Bangladesh to Barbados and Dominica, almost around 25 countries. And as I understand that, we have distributed 362 lakh doses of COVID vials, right? And of which, you know, that 67 lakhs were, or was it supplied to these countries as India's gift. Others, you know, that was a commercial ventures, right? So, you know, that we not only fought corona, but we also fought for the disease together. And now, you know, that we have the availability of vaccines, and India's fight against COVID-19 was so great, and WHO recognized this, and India's Health Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, has been elected as the chair of the executive board of World Health Organization for the year 2020 and 21. So we know that India takes the place of Japan. So this we must be aware that India's fight against COVID has been internationally recognized. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, some of the things I told you, some of you are familiar, but most of you are familiar thanks to the leftist groups and others. They highlight this economic contraction. Yes, GDP contracted. But you know that most of us, as we hear the television talks and others, we hear that there was a contraction of 24%. You know, it was 23.3%, but later revised to 4.4% contraction. I mean, but that was only for a quarter. April to June quarter, not the whole year. April to June quarter, Corona peak time. Yes, everything was under lockdown and economy had a serious contraction. And yes, it is the highest after independence. That is absolutely true. I mean, I won't say that highest after independence because this quarterly data were available only after 1986, and so since that day we can say that it was. You say this contraction was the highest. Yes, we have a contraction again in the next quarter, July to September, it was in minus 7.3%. But you know that fast forward, the most of the politicians, yes, those who do not that tolerate India's success, they say that India had a contraction of 23.9% and economy has been suffering. And this government is unable to function and we are all losing our jobs and everything is in disorder. This is what our what the Andalan GVs they talk about it. But ladies and gentlemen, I have the untold facts for you. And you know that we have several quarters, as you understand. Well, you know that financial year begins from April to June quarter, then we have a July to September quarter, then we have October to December quarter, and we have a positive. You know that we have, we call the economy is in recession. If we have a two successive contraction, I mean the negative growth rate, but in Q3, you know that third quarter we have a positive, right? We have a positive, but we are yet to get the fourth quarter of January to March data is yet to be available because that's only last day of February today. Yes, we had a contraction of only 8%. 8% expected projected contraction is about 8% is 2020-21. Yes. Do you understand? We had such a long lockdown. And yes, many countries, I don't like to burden you with data for several other countries, but you know that we have a lockdown of only, we have a contraction or of only 8% overall in 2020-21 and not 23.9%. I know that which some people they try to say. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are all familiar that what Corona created. Yes, it created massive unemployment rate. Yes, massive unemployment. I share with you the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy data, which is reasonably restricted, right? And you see that if you can see my slide. Yes, Corona started in India at the end of March. And yes, April, we had a very high unemployment rate of 23.52%. If you can see this, yes, both in rural areas, urban areas, there is a massive high unemployment rate. Yes, in May also we had 21%, and June it dropped to 10%. When today, if you see January, you know that last month for which data is available from the CMI sources, it is only 6.53, which is unemployment rate is now lower. Unemployment is now lower than it was in February 2000. Right. You know that people try to give the impression that the Indian economy is finished. We have unemployment, corona unemployment, government failed miserably. And yes, now that I was hearing speech by the politicians in Calcutta, Brigade Parade Ground, and they say Indian economy has gone down and thousands and millions. Yes, you know that it is true that many jobs have been lost. People have to relocate. Many things happen, but data says that we are slowly. That 2-3 months we had difficulties, but we have been able to recover rather well. Right? Okay. And you see that several countries witness food rioting during this corona and its associated very tight lockdown. We have media reports of Chile capital Santiago having a series of food riots. Food riots, ladies and gentlemen, also happen in South Africa and several cities of Netherlands. It all happened. But India, no, yes, you all remember that lockdown was rather peaceful in this country. We had a lockdown, and I agree with all of you that it was a very unplanned lockdown because we never knew what would happen. We have no knowledge. So, that, everybody was in panicky. So government declared lockdown, but it was peaceful. We did not see, much any food reporting, any food rioting anywhere in the country. And why this happened? Because you see that I just wanted to give you the price, food price index, wholesale price inflation in the country for several months. And these are all from the government sources. There's economic advisors to the government because the wholesale price index and inflation. And you see that for March to inflation, food inflation was only 5%. And if you say I've given it for all the months till January last month we had a uh, negative inflation. And before that, in December 20, we had 0.92, minor in most of the cases, except in September. September and October, the food inflation did not exceed 5%. So you see that India was peaceful, no food rioting, and because the government was able to maintain food price in a stable format. And you see, also important is the fact that the government followed people first policy, which was needed. And government, you all know that Prime Minister announced Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana for the poor, and that government announced 1.70 lakh crore, which is almost around 24 billion US dollar, right? And you see that 80 crore people, they got 5 kg of wheat rice, 1 kg of pulses for several months during lockdown, right? And also know that there were insurance cover for health workers. And you see that Riga wage also got increased from 182 to 202. I mean, although it's a slight increase in Riga wages, but yes, that with 14 crore families almost get that the 100 big jobs, that actual Kaj, as we call in Bengal, and which rate got increased. Yes, and there is ex-gratia payment to senior citizens and many such people. And I say that government followed this people first policy, and a massive social relief package was announced. And people, yes, I don't say that everybody was happy. To a great extent, government followed a policy, a people-oriented policy, because the government, people passed economy the second, right? And we did not see any of the much of the food trial. Ladies and gentlemen, you also remember that we had Ampan, the massive Ampan in West Bengal. I remember when I was a child, we used to see lots of storms, and that I have seen lots of trees being uprooted and branches falling all over the streets. And that as soon as the storm used to get over, people would accumulate, they would cut the trees and use those trees for their as fuel, right? But today, no poor people came to cut the trees. And those who are in Calcutta, you have been, that you have a nightmares experiences. You cannot move on the road because of trees fell on the road, and also trees fell on your electricity lampposts, and that you got disconnected for electricity for several and broadband for several days. But this time, these people did not go. Why they did not go and cut the trees? Because you see that we have Prime Minister Ujala Yojana, which is a scheme of providing LPG connections, to poor families. The almost 8 crore families have been supplied with this Prime Minister Ujala Yojana LPG gas cylinders. And ladies and gentlemen, not much people are aware the 80 lakh 66,000 gas connections were given in West Bengal. 80 lakh, almost 1 crore people or families, 1 crore families got LPG connections. And that again, then these LPGs given to the given in the name of a adult woman, as we in Bengal they say the shashi in in the name of a woman, adult woman in the family. This PMUY Prime Minister's Ujala Yojana is for the adult woman. That's a government subsidized. Yes, it was it was thought that people would not would get the first cylinder free from the government and they would not go for refill. But that I don't like to elaborate you with data, but that there is a significant demand for second refill and on, and people lifestyle is changing, and nobody is coming to the street to cut the trees when they fall because of a straw. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to also take you to some more data and those who know them. I just want to say those people who thought that Indian economy will get devastated by Corona and lockdown. And I would just to say that during this period, we have foreign direct investment. If you can see there, the last last two rows, you can. I just want you to compare April to September, right? April 2022, September 2020. We received FDI equity flows, 224,000, or equivalent to 30,000 US dollar. This was the foreign direct investment during the Corona period. And you see that at same time last year, I mean the year before the Corona, was 182,000. This means that we have received 23% extra 23% extra foreign direct investment in equity flows. So you understand that those who say that Indian economy got finished, they must realize this Indian economy is not finished. It's growing. Its reputation in the world is growing so high that that people do no longer consider China to be their destination for investment. They're coming to India. Yes, yes, I don't say that we are replacing China overnight. It is not possible. But that despite COVID-19, despite Corona, despite that leftist the way of spreading the message that and the Congress way of spreading the message like economy is finished, we are not. I just want to share some more information with you with regard to this FDI. FDI, you see that this is the I talked to you about equity flows and total FDI. Total FDI during the Corona time up to September for the financial year 2020-21 is 39,000 or almost 40,000 million US dollar. And if you see there, if you see there, the last year of the UPA2 government, UPA2 government, last year of the UPA2 government was 36,000 million US dollars. And yes, during Corona, the FDI was higher than that target. FDI is higher than UPA2 government last year's FDI attractions. So you understand that despite Corona, that we have been able to maintain the reputation of our economy, that investors all worldwide, they thought that India is a place which is not to be ignored as far as foreign direct investment is concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not like to present to this slide, but since most of you are from Bengal, and I did not resist the temptation of showing you this slide. If you see the top row, Gujarat, Gujarat, you see that, and 29 to 2019 to 20 October, March, Gujarat, that they received 18,900 crores. And this year, Corona time, it rose to 1,19,000. It rose to 1,19,000. Such massive is the rise of investment in India's this province. I'm very upset, ladies and gentlemen, to show you this slide. West Bengal, the 10th on the column, we have received only 1,000 363 rupees crore FDI last year, the October, March, and during Corona time. There was a slight increase, 1985. But you understand where West Bengal stand as far as foreign direct investment is concerned compared to Gujarat and many other states. I don't like to elaborate much on it, but you understand that Corona did not stop foreign direct investment from coming to India's several states. Now you see the GST revenue. You see that we have all heard about speculations and apprehensions that okay, their government will not get GST revenues, and as a result, that public programs will suffer. But GST revenue collections, I don't know whether you're all familiar. GST revenue collection for December 2020 was all-time high, see, all-time high since implementation of GST. 1,15,000 crore GST was collected, right? You see that those who say that GST is a unplanned, GST is some kind of attack on the on our that informal economy, and it is a bottleneck. It is a serious hindrance for economic growth for the MSME sectors. So that is uh, medium and small, micro and medium small sectors. You all know that, but this despite the fact that we have been able to have a GST collection rising. I have a slide. I have a slide which say that GST collection last year, and this year, right, month wise. Yes, in April last year was good, very high because you understand the Corona was peak. You know that April, May, June, July, August. Yes, peak Corona months, GST collection was, yes, last year's was higher than this year. And this made India critics to be very happy that from September onwards, you can see that this light shaded region, that is crossing over the dark shaded region for, and the last December month, it was the high. So despite Corona, that Indian economy is in such a situation that despite Corona, despite the greatest trouble of the century, Indian economy is still able to rise. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share with you this information. You're all familiar doing business. Doing business, India's position was 142, 142 in 2015. That in 2020, that we have been able to remove most of the obstacles for doing business in India, legal hurdles, administrative hurdles, and other types of hurdles. So that so much that India is now our index is now 63 in 2020, and global innovation index, that every year, that we are going ahead. It was 57. Now we are 48. So in innovation wise, we are on a higher scale. That, ladies and gentlemen, I must say that COVID-19 has made us to rethink our policies and programs and our approach towards China. Yes, we had a long connectivity for several centuries. Yes, but COVID-19 created some of the dangers. Many people worldwide thought that China cannot be trusted any further, and we have seen that how China created trouble. I don't like to elaborate the trouble they created in Ladakh and other regions, but you understand that we cannot trust China and Pakistan any longer. Yes, yes. So, but in India, that we realize this. That you all know that we had a very huge Chinese dependency. we know that we supplied raw materials and intermediaries to China, while we imported capital goods and critical intermediaries. Okay, and also that if I share you some more information that in 2019-20, 83% of our mobile phones are from China. 90% of our colors TV sets are from China. In pharmacy, you see that active pharmaceutical ingredient APIs over 70% they come from China. Over 70% of our that this is the active ingredient. They are from, we have to buy it from China because we don't produce it. You'll remember that Jai Shukla Al Hati committee that was there, they recommended that this this active pharmaceutical ingredients be produced by the public sector because profit margin is very low. Private sector is not interested. Anyway, we know that pharmaceutical ingredients they come from China. In motorcycles, 85% of our parts come from China. So in photovoltaic cells, heavily dependent textiles, that we have yes. But Corona, for the first time, made us realize that we have to be Atmanirbhar. Ladies and gentlemen, you must be remembering that we developed Atmanirbhar Bharat uh, project. Yes, I don't like to elaborate on the project itself, but know that I would like to share you something. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, uh, just untold facts. The fact that we have been able to do many things. Corona has made us really self-reliant, really made us realize our potentials. Ladies and gentlemen, you see that India's importation from China on top 50 products dropped. You know that what we imported in April, June 2019-20, and you know that in the current year, when the Corona year, which is still continuing, Corona financial year is still continuing, and we have been able to, reduce our import. If I say that during 19 to 20, I have taken this Corona time period, April to July time period. In 2019-20, India imported 22,000 million USD from China. And this year, April to July, that the same 15 top products, we are able to reduce importation by 5 million. Right. And for other products as well, that we have been able to reduce. Now, our total import bill from China for the same time period, Corona time period this year and similar time period for the last year, we have been able to reduce for all China goods, right? And not only for China, we have been able to reduce our general importation bill during Corona time. But yes, you may say that in Corona time, that we had lot of difficulties, so our purchase was less. But you know that yes, I agree with your point. But fact remains that there is a beginning of an awareness that we have to produce our products domestically. We have to patronize our products. We have to be vocal for local, and we have to make them global, right? And you see that, ladies and gentlemen, I have this slide, and this is you see that our in 2019-20, this was our overall import bill, and we have been able to reduce it significantly. This was total for this was for this yellow was what China importation bill, and we have been able to reduce it during the same time period this year. No, that this is just a graphical representation, and I have figured for all the 50 products, that just that I will not take all the time to go into each product, but taking the first electronics component. Electronics component 2019-20, April, July. I know that the import from China was 2,000 million US dollar, and it got reduced to 1,100 million US dollar. So you understand that we have been able to reduce. Yes, but pharmacy, yes, bulk drugs and pharmacy, we could not reduce much. We have to work very hard. We have to work very hard, yes, to produce uh, active ingredients, pharmaceutical ingredients in our own country. Yes, I do not know whether any pharmacy producers are listening to my lectures. I will urge upon them. I'll urge upon the government of West Bengal, that yes, there is a huge market for that active pharmaceutical ingredients. We can reduce our dependence on China if you can produce that, and it is not a difficult exercise. But that governments in the states, and that are not much concerned about economics. We are more concerned about politics, and we are all suffering because of that. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, while we say that we are learning from our China dependencies. But we have to be, that we have to recognize that China is doing much better than us because of better research options. We all must agree. And I just want to share with you that this there are several universities in China which are in the top 50 world universities. We have the Tsinghua University, then the Beijing University. Yes, these are the universities, and they are in the top 50, 150 university. I travel to some of these when I that teach in China. But if we look to Indian situations, our that we are IIT Bombay in 172 position, Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore and 185 positions, IIT Delhi 193 positions, 195 positions. That our research capabilities are definitely weaker. And you understand that why I say our research potentials are weaker. If you see the patent data, if you see that Chinese patent, 14 lakhs, that. This is for the year 2018. This is for the 2018, that Chinese year 2018, China, almost 14 lakh patents, their applications, but ours is only 16,000. United States, almost 3 lakh. So patents, that we are lacking. That we need researchers, original researchers, which our universities, our research institutes are not much interested. I have seen in China, that there is a pressure on Chinese universities, Chinese research organization, that to produce according to the needs of the society, economy, and according to the capacity of the people. So they are doing enormous amount of researches, enormous amount. And I know that government says, hey, we have to do this within the time period. But the research audit. But in our country, unfortunately, we do not have a similar system. But if India has to grow, ladies and gentlemen, we have to emphasis on these patents, right? And that the government of India announced Atmanirbhar Bharat, as well as the national education policy. National education policy. Whole purpose of the national education policy is to foster, is to motivate uh, original ideas, imagination, research. Right? No, that otherwise economy cannot grow. So the Corona time period has given us, that a lot of uh, understanding. We have catered well, and we have realized things which are important towards us. Yes, China is creating problem, but we have announced Atmanirbhar Bharat, and you all know that in Atmanirbhar Bharat we have emphasis on our economy, our infrastructure, our demography. We have a very vibrant demography. Right. So that the five pillars I mentioned this, and it was mentioned in the policy itself, and they wanted to that economy to grow through five sectors. I don't. I've already spoken for 41 minutes. Burunda is waiting for his presentations. So I will take Shantani. I will take 4 minutes, 4 more minutes, and finish it. Okay. Is that okay, Shantani? Uh, Hello.
Okay,
So
okay.
India's five commanding sectors, automobiles, no, we have huge potentials in we have huge potential in electronics, huge potential in renewable energy, roads and highways, and pharmaceuticals. You know that. The economy has to grow, and if the economy has to take the challenge of a similar catastrophe as we faced through Corona, I know that these sectors are very very important, and the government through its Atmanirbhar policies they talked about that. And okay, so I don't like to take much time on this, but I just wanted to say that while we know that we made our dependence on China, but this Corona made us realize that we have to shift our emphasis somewhere. You see that we had government which made us dependent on the Russian system for very long years, and as a result, that we became ecologically dependent on Russia. Some people emotionally dependent, but that today we have seven alternative countries, seven countries: the USA, Japan, uh, Emirates, Germany, France, yes, and then Korea and Sweden, an enormous amount of corporations. I don't have the time to talk about that. I just like to say that Corona has, despite the number of people we lost, number of infections, number of trauma people faced. I myself got locked down for several months. I have several friends, that who had to relocate their professions, particularly in the public business. One of my friend who plays tabla could not perform for several months and had to work as a uh, work as a security person. Yeah, this thing happened. This thing happened. You know that in all countries this thing happened, but that we had this shock, and we have been able to recover. Not only recover, we have been recovering well, and India is becoming the attraction for the rest of the world. And I'm sure that if you see that IMF projections a few months back, they say that India will have a good economic fortunes for the next few years. That we all say that if we have a shock, we have the opportunities for a future growth. And you see that almost we have a new normal to normal situation on Corona, right? And things are opening up. We have a wonderful leadership for the economy and for the politics. And as a result, I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, uh, the bad days are slowly getting over, and we have to all make our contributions together so that the economy can go farther. And I'm sure that if we all can work together, and in the way economy is moving, India's dream of reaching a 5 trillion economy would not be very far. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you, Shantani.
Thank you so much, sir, for your outstanding lecture. So we have four questions here. I will ask one by one. So first question is by Orjoma Ghosh. And sir, do you think the first world economy was worst hit due to the lockdown because of post Fordist outsourcing based economy? Do you think India could profit out of post lockdown economy?
Yes, definitely, definitely. You see that the developed countries, that because of high wages in their own country, they are dependent on developing countries, and that here we have a advantage. You see that Chinese people's English is not, the neutral accent. We have our Indians speaking neutral accent. We have a better capabilities with regard to outsourcing, and yes. Uh, I think as you have rightly said, yes, that yes, they are outsourcing because they want to reduce the cost of productions, and we can surely gain. But that this what I would like to say, that government needs to control the that outsource agents in our country. That they need to that go by quality, that quality control is very important. So unless that you're able to maintain your standard, that at some point of time, I know that you might not get sufficient orders. The economy will have a bad name. So you see that the government need to control qualitatively on all the outsourced agents who work for international companies. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Second question is also by Orjoma Ghosh, and his question is: do you think the lockdown recession and near? Do you think the lockdown recession and near collapse of the first world economy can lead to a springboard effect for Indian economy? Please enlighten us.
Yes, you see that lockdown, that uh, created a lot of closing down of economic activities in the developed countries. So yes, and they are no longer trusting Chinese sources. So and we have an opportunity. We have a God-gifted opportunity, and this opportunity, if we can nourish well, it's very important that we have to take a serious planning, and the government need to advise all the companies which are engaged in these activities. And yes, definitely it can work as a springboard. And if you see that in the American, the trade is rising, in the way that there is a decline in India-China trade, we have a rise in India-American cooperation, and I am sure that if we are able to have our own technology developed slowly, with this I know that I mean to me, our own technology development is very important. If we use a borrowed technology, you have to have royalty and other kinds of technology traps you get involved. That if we have a technological development, no, that which go commensurately with your economic growth. I'm sure that opportunities that has been created now will have a lasting effect, right? It will give a serious boost to the Indian economy. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Next question is by Shujit Maji. Sir, how did the COVID-19 pandemic affect the contours of the international power structure?
Yes, you see that it's a good question, Sujit Maji. I'm very happy that you raised it. Um, so China, you have to remember that it's no longer trusted nation. So and India, that. And everybody realized that it's China is to be tackled. That China not only because that COVID originated in China, but because of its aggressive campaigning, right? Because of his new imperialistic ventures in various countries, through his overt policies, and South China Sea. You're all familiar. So most of the big powers they have realized that if China has to be tackled, it has to be tackled within the Asian continent, and for that, India is very important. In the way we have tackled COVID, we have earned a tremendous reputation, Sujit. India has earned a tremendous reputation, and yes, this will change the power structure, right? And India is. I just like to, if Shantini gives me a minute, I just like to say that
Okay, sir.
I
Okay,
attended
thank.
I attended a conference in 2017 in China. I know that we had good relations, and I used to commute China as my second home. And I remember in one gathering where I was asked to give a keynote speaker, and I mentioned that I have come from India, uh, which is a developing country, and I have come here, and India wants to see how China has developed. And then the conference was being presided by a very senior leader of the Communist Party, and right, he stopped me. You see that? He stopped me. I was worried what he was going to do. He stopped me. He says that my friend from India is not telling the truth. He says that India is a developing country, but India is no longer a developing country. India is a developed country. This was a statement made by the Chinese leader in Full House. China recognizes that India is a very serious power. And COVID-19, right? In the way we tackle, in the way we know that we have been able to draw the respect of the international community, I'm sure sooner, right? Know that once we are able to contain the domestic difficulties, domestic problem, we are able to mitigate domestic poverty, the unemployment, etc. I am sure that India is going to be a major player in foreign relations in future days. Yes, Shantanu.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much again for your talk. We are looking forward to hear from you more in future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We are really enlightened. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Uh, I now take this opportunity to introduce our second speaker for the day, Professor Borun Kanjilal, retired professor, Indian Institute of Health Management Research, Jaipur. Borun Kanjilal's primary area of interest is health economics. After obtaining a PhD in economics from Louisiana State University, he joined the Indian Institute of Health Management Research, from where he retired in 2017. He also worked as adjunct professor in the Department of Health Policy and Administration, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and a senior associate in the Department of International Health of the Bloomberg School of Public Health, John Hopkins University. Professor Kanjilal has extensively worked on economic evaluation, public health financing, and system-related issues of various health and population programs in India. I now request Professor Kanjilal to deliver his lecture. His topic is Economics of Healthcare in New Normal, the Crisis Within. Sir, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Santani, and thank you, the organizers, for having me here, and especially the Santani and other team members who are here. I see here, and it's my pleasure really, and it's my honor to be here and to speak in this annual conference of Bharat Vidya Charcha Kendra. And I also am delighted to see my old friend Professor Rajagopal and here, and who has just given an excellent talk. I will just put my PowerPoint first, and then I'll come back. So basically, what I will talk is looking from the viewpoint of a researcher who has been doing research in healthcare economics for a long time. So we look at this new normal and the crisis, and so that's why the title is Economics Healthcare in New Normal: The Crisis Within. And as Professor Raja just shared, and I'm not going to repeat these things, I'll just go through quickly. That there is a crisis, there is no doubt about it, and then the whole economy, world economy, global economy actually, what World Bank saying that we have probably lost a decade. And this is because it is true that the global economy is facing the worst recession in 2020 since World War II. And in many countries, emerging and developing economies, the per capita income actually there is a loss, and there's a reverse direction, but which actually overruled these 10 years or so more of gains. So the bottom line is that we are going to have a huge army of poor people, and globally, which is estimated to be by World Bank is about 100 million by 2021. And so probably the efforts and initiatives for poverty reduction so far has been wiped out. Many of these things are wiped out by a single shock. What is the Indian story? It has been elaborated just now. So in brief, it was the lowest performer in growth in some quarters, but expected to pick up fast after 2021. Fortunately, the positive sign of positivity is showing up. But overall, it may say that the GDP growth, like other countries, has turned turtle, and it is almost inevitable. And the only argument was the only point was that can we reduce this contraction? That was the challenge. So ultimately, what happened? We know that the market, there is a huge problem of demand in the market. Demand was inadequate, and the existing fiscal space in the state, at the state level or the central level. One argument is that they could have done much better to push up the demand, and the other view is that no, they did adequate. They took adequate measures, but overall, I think that still there is a shadow of conservative supply side approach, and as a result of there is inadequacy in the demand. Now I will go to health. Basically, what is linked to healthcare market? As you know, as a student of economics, any student of economics would know that the health shock or any external shock will have an effect on economy. But the impact of this shock will depend, the degree of impact of this shock will depend on the resilience of the health system. So this we have seen in the case of HIV/AIDS. In many African countries, actually the GDP contracted, GDP growth stunted, and there is huge loss due to HIV and AIDS. The health system is so fragile that they could not absorb the shock, and as a result, it spread over the whole economy, all the sectors of the economy. And that's exactly happened in the case of COVID-19 in many countries. On the other hand, there are instances also that if the health system is strong and resilient means your capacity to bounce back. So if a strong and resilient health system is there, it will absorb most of the shock and will minimize the social welfare loss. Our question is how resilient is our health system? Now, at the same time, it is also true that just the resilience of health system is not enough to completely make it the impact, to make the impact zero. So there are other factors also. As we know that this external health shock directly affects the labor market. And also, this is the first impact. The second impact, parallel impact, is basically what we call market disruption. This market disruption may happen due to automatically the market could not handle the disease, or it may happen due to some government policy. In HIV/AIDS case, it was the market could not handle the thing. So there are many businesses that gone away just because the labor, there is due to huge labor shortage. Those laborers who died of AIDS. Interestingly, COVID-19 is a case, and probably the only case I see in recent times, where the market disruption is due to the government policy. It was inevitable, government could not do anything else. So the lockdown and all this thing is nothing but a planned market disruption. So these two things happen. And as a result of that, this creates a ripple effect in the whole economy. In different sectors in the macroeconomy, it creates the ripple effect. And as a result, ultimately, the GDP and employment data takes a disastrous look. So question is now how we will not go into labor market and market disruption. We'll look into the resilience of our health system itself. What is Indian healthcare market? All of us know, and there are some characteristics which make it unique. This healthcare market is basically pluralistic market. There are so many stakeholders, so many players there. You don't see so many players in other countries, and which makes it extremely complex system of relationship between various stakeholders. The providers, that means hospitals, doctors, etc. The financiers means the insurance company or the private sector or the government or the people themselves and consumers. So there are different layers of providers, financial consumers, and the relationship therefore becomes very complex and interesting to see. At the same time, what happened that in the last three decades, especially, the healthcare industry has emerged as a very robust, it is increasing at a very high rate. Even during Corona period, the healthcare industry expanded, but the industry is mostly unregulated. And as you see, as you those who are engaged in health research, they know that there is significant presence of informal providers. So there is a huge informal market, especially in outpatient market. That means that where you go to doctor and visit and come back, there is a huge informal market. And the other interesting fact is that the health financing, that is the all activities, how it is financed, the primary source is still out-of-pocket expenditure. That is what we pay from our own pocket. Despite the huge amount of government budgetary spend, or apparently huge amount of budgetary spend, or many other sources, insurance, etc. It is more than two-thirds of expenditure on health in this country is by the people themselves, in addition to the tax they pay. Now, this market took a rapid transformation in the last 3 decades, especially after 1990s, when the economy was deregulated, and suddenly the winds of liberalization sweeping across the economy, and as a result, things opened up, and which quickly led to what we call a rapid spread of private market in medical care. This is also in parallel to what we call commodification of healthcare in our economy, increasing commodification. So private market expanded. What did the government do? Government got marginalized in both provision and financing, especially of curative care, not in primary care, but in curative care. That means secondary care, hospital care. The government hospitals and government sarkar mai baap kind of thing gave way to private hospitals. Lots of new private hospitals came up, private providers came up, and that made the government marginalized. But at the same time, especially from 2005-6, the government started pumping investment, very well-directed investment towards primary health programs, especially in maternal and child health care program. We know everybody the flagship program, National Rural Health Mission, NRHM, came about at this time. And the program gave a shape to the initiative towards maternal and child health care program. And as a result, the basic primary health indicators, infant mortality rate, maternal mortality ratio, all started falling rapidly. All these things started happening, markets started expanding, but interestingly, the institutional and social framework, I will talk more about that later on, but the institutional framework around the market, the student of economics knows that a market is nothing but an institution which is defined by the institutional arrangement or rule of the game. A market without any rules, without any controlling power, or without any standard, any rules, will be a chaotic system. So to make it a very streamlined, very disciplined, the market establishes a rule around that, and that is called institution and social framework. But that framework itself must change over time. The judiciary, the regulatory body, etc., they usually change very fast in developed countries with respect to change in the market. But in our case, it remains stagnant. As a result, what happened? The institutions which are supposed to protect the people from insecurity, from vulnerabilities, uh, they failed. And as a result, an emergence of a new set of vulnerabilities, new set of iniquities came up in the market. People become more vulnerable in 1980s or 1970s. If there is if somebody is sick, they'll go to government hospital. Government hospital is not good, but at least he'll get some free treatment there. But when the market opened up, the government sector failed to provide services to all people. So many poor people have to take services from private sector and leading to huge burden, economic burden on their families. So and this is typically called health poverty, health related poverty. That means that you become poor just because of healthcare. Now, how the private sector expanded will be clear from this data, which is the NSSO data. Actually, the five rounds we have seen here, and from 1987. The latest one is in 2018. The black one is the public hospitals, and yellow one is the private. So this is inpatient market. That is, we are talking about the inpatients only. That is where the patients have to be hospitalized to stay in the hospital. And as you see that 1987, it was about 60%. If there are 100 people going to hospital, 60 will go to government, 40 would go to private hospitals in rural as well as in urban sector. This was the scenario in 1987. The scenario just reversed recent times where the black portion reduced, yellow portion expanded, and in urban it is more prominent. It is about more than less than 40% is now to government going to government hospital. So, which means that basically the private hospitals, the private sector is growing like anything. And what is happening as a result of that? Uh, at the same time, what images are emerging? At the same time, the secondary and tertiary care market, especially, there is increasing corporatization. The corporate sector is entering into there. If you remember that, 30 years ago, probably those who know that, you used to have private sector, just some nursing home, small nursing home in your locality, and we used to call them hospital though, but they are basically nursing home. But now that was now uh, given new set of hospitals coming up. If you go by EM bypass, you'll see that all the corporate bigwigs are there, big players are there, and so this is corporatization is happening, which created some positive things like technology, drugs, super specialty care. All these things are now modern, and you have an expanded choice set. In 1980s, you don't have much option, but now you have lots of options that they are available for you. But at the same time, what is happening? There is a clear evidences of market failure, and it is largely due to asymmetric information because when you go to hospital, you know much less than the doctor about yourself. So the doctor decides or the hospital decides what is best for you, and they will and you have to follow their advice. There is no other way. And this leads to asymmetric information, always leads to many times leads to market failure, because in that case the consumers may get a very bad deal. You may be fooled, you may be cheated, and more or less the cost will increase. In brief, it is basically a very unregulated and unfair system, the private and patient care, private sector, and as a result, it is leading to catastrophic impact on household economy. This is before COVID. I'm saying, and this has nothing to do with COVID itself, but COVID aggravated this problem. Uh, and this catastrophic impact, you can see that the blue one is 2004 and the gray one is 2014. The issue is here that what percentage of households are spending more than a threshold level. That is that when you spend some percentage of your income on healthcare. If you spend in that above that threshold level, above that benchmark, say 40%, then it becomes catastrophic. If you spend your 40%, more than 40% of your annual income on healthcare, that means it will be catastrophic, which means that it will force you to poverty. You will become poor. You will enter the hospital as an APL person, and will come out from the hospital. You'll be a BPL person. So that kind of thing. So if we take different cutoff mark, threshold level, if it is 10%, 20%, 40%. If you take 40% cutoff marks, that is that 40% of income are being spent on health. How many people are doing that? Definitely, it is increasing from about 6%. It has now become 8%. So the main thing is that 6 to 8% of the people are spending of the households, actually not people, of households are spending exorbitantly high amount on healthcare, and therefore they have high probability to become poor. Now, with that background, we can now focus on some few critical issues. I have taken 3, 4 issues. There are many issues, and how the pandemic actually, what is the relation with pandemic. So the critical issues related to the healthcare market in India, and how pandemic you know strengthens that issues, or makes it more critical, and that's what I will talk about that. So here, what we say there are two types of virus. The virus we are talking about, coronavirus, is nothing but an outer virus, external virus. But our health system is already down with internal virus. And what is that virus? It's the virus of inequality and inefficiency. And why? Because there are two types of failures happening here. One is market failure, which the economists always discuss. But at the same time, there is a government failure. The state failed. When the market failed, state comes as a savior. But when the state itself failed, then who will protect you? So our system is basically plugged with this virus. The external virus has exposed and amplified these failures. It has forced us to relook at some critical issues that bug the system. We have not seen, we knew about these issues, but we didn't discuss that much. But now suddenly, if you look at this, the recent literature, suddenly the researcher and other people suddenly are giving more attention to these issues. What are these issues? I have taken 3 to 4 issues here. Issue number 1, role of government vis-a-vis the private sector. And here, our public healthcare system, which is very poorly funded, coronavirus has exposed the chinks in the armor, the worst effects of poorly equipped, poorly funded public health system. The issue came here, the question comes here, and it's a good topic of research actually, that what should be the role of the state in such complex transformation? Can the government deal with this market failure in a better way? Well, there are some options from other countries, from our countries, our health policies also giving some options. One option is that government should squeeze, downsize its role. The government should not be the MyBap in healthcare. It should focus on primary care, but at the same time, it will not put the poor people in the jeopardy. So it will allow the poor people go to market and take help from private care, but will compensate the welfare loss. The Ayushman Bharat is actually based on more or less on this principle. Second option is that the government has lost its position, as we have seen right now. That government hospital is less popular now. Regain this lost position, invest more, and focus on better governance and public healthcare facilities. Instead of spending on Ayushman or other things, spend it on government hospitals. Make it stronger. That is another option, another view. And also play a more effective and wider role in providing public goods, such as management of COVID crisis. COVID showed very clear that the COVID, for example, the treatment or prevention of COVID-19 is a public good. Vaccine is a public good. Uh, what should government? How should government tackle that? Now, since our federal system, the state is the main implementer, so many state actually were like headless chickens. They were running around, they don't know what to do, etc. And but if there is a prepared government, and from the very beginning it knows how to deal with public goods, then probably it could have been better managed. And lastly, some people say that allow the private market to take over, but you government, you concentrate on regulating it. You just regulate it. Now, which one will be the better option? Now, we don't have answers. There is no easy answer to that, and that's where the researchers need to find it out. Second issue is, of course, this whole issue of state-sponsored medical insurance. And we know that Ayushman and Shastro Shati, this type of insurance program, are they really solutions or are there really problems? On the one hand, of course, the positive side is that these schemes, it at least partially protect people from catastrophic out-of-pocket expenditure. Uh, because it is cashless, you are covered 5 lakh rupees, you go to hospital, you don't have to pay anything. So you are protected, you are saved, you don't have to spend much. That's good. On the other hand, the problem is that it may lead to gradual withdrawal of government from basic healthcare interventions. Now, why we say that? Because the governments are so going gaga over these schemes. Sometimes you doubt that. What do you mean by these schemes? These schemes are panacea. These schemes are medicine for all. Uh, does it substitute a good governance of public healthcare system? No, it just helps to solve some financing problem, nothing else. If your healthcare system is a very weak, if it is very fragile, then these health insurance schemes did nothing. And COVID is a good example where it was found that the Ayushman Bharat people, they themselves did the study that the claim of insurance and reimbursement for claim drastically reduced during the lockdown period, especially. Many problems, or health problems, remain unattended, and people with heart problems, people with cancer went without any treatment. And if you have a Ayushman card or Shastri card, it doesn't matter at all, because you go to the hospital is not treating you. So if you have a beautiful card with you, but if you don't have any hospital to go, and if you go to the hospital drives you away, then what is the meaning of this card? This is the question. Number 3 question: inequality virus, and it is one of the virus, actually, inequality virus in our service delivery system. I will not go into details. It's a huge area, but what is happening is that, especially after this famous Oxfam report came up, that COVID-19 has exposed, fed up, and increased existing inequalities in healthcare, and as well as gender and race, which means that there are already inequalities in healthcare. Poor people get less access to healthcare than rich people. These inequalities were already there. COVID-19 probably exposed that. This exposed very nicely in the global scenario when all the rich nations cornered the vaccines. Before the vaccine came to the market, all those vaccines were pre-booked by USA and other developed countries. And most of the developing countries, except India, produced its own. Most of the developing countries were like looking at, they don't have any access to these vaccines. So internationally there is inequality, and within nation, within state, even within a district, there are inequalities. And COVID exposed that. And finally, the failure of institutional arrangements, which which I said in the very beginning, that there are several institutions which are necessary to deal with, to counterbalance the market's aggression. Regulatory framework is one. Trust among people, trust between the provider and the consumers, trust between the doctor and the patient, trust between the hospital and the people, social norms, political agenda, contractual arrangements, legal framework, social network. These are all institutions which actually uh, help the people. But what is happening is there, the regulatory framework is extremely weak. There is no effective regulatory framework to control the market, healthcare market. Trust, do we trust the hospital? You go to private hospital, do you trust them? No, we don't trust them because they'll come up with some bills and some unbelievable amount they will charge that you never trust them. Social norms, are we have adequate community groups there which who can talk to each other and then protest or no, deal with the market? Not much. Political agenda. Do you see that much political parties? They are talking about political agenda, except again, except these insurance schemes. Are they talking about these inequalities? Are they talking about the increasing cost of medical care? Not much. Contractual arrangements, legal framework is inadequate. If the market robs you, if the market uh, loots you, then do you get is the justice from the legal system? You may, but you will have to wait for 20 years to get that. So it is a strong institutional arrangement is extremely important, which is missing. And this what has happened? The marketization actually outpaced the required institutional changes, and the institutional social framework is relatively stagnant. This led to distorted market relation and complexities, and what economists say rampant rent-seeking practices, dalali, the Bush, all these rent-seeking practices are rampant in the healthcare market in all states, not only in our state but everywhere. It's there. That we should not blame the government always, because institution also includes communities, our own network. Do we have any group, any forum, consumers have any forum, a strong forum, effective forum, which no, which addresses those things, which can address? No. So what is the way forward? We have to first reform the regulatory institutions. Regulation doesn't just mean control. It just doesn't mean just the private sector, but also government. It doesn't just mean policing, but oversight. And there is a huge literature on regulation, the transformation regulation. By regulation, always we mean policing, dandabaji. Regulation is not dandabaji. Regulation should be in a new era. It should be innovative. It should not be. It should be based on partnership between society, media, etc. Another thing we always think that who will regulate? Government. Now, this idea is not a very it's a very old idea, and it is not very relevant now in this in present context. In many countries, have shown that non-government organizations how they can offer a very good regulatory framework. Even the private sector, they themselves regulate. Private buses, for example, they regulate themselves. So it is we need to think about that. We need to increase public investment for public health infrastructure. It is good that the recent budget actually provided some kept some provision in this way, about 10,000 crore, which is by the way a peanut, but still I will say a very good step for public health infrastructure. Every district will have the surveillance center, will have public health lab, to test this pandemic, any pandemic, and all these things, and learn from the crisis. And then I would say that bring reforms in current insurance-based models. This Ayushman, Swasthya Swati, just I'm covering five, giving five, covering 5 lakh. It doesn't mean anything. You have to improve the supply system. You have to make sure that this doesn't trigger the medical expenditure, and that is possible. Many countries have shown the way. So we just have to follow. We have to bring in some reforms here, and that's what I think. I'm within time, right? For 10 years. So
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing with us your esteemed views. We shall be having questions now. So we have one question by Arjoma Ghosh, and that is, sir, you have mentioned about the increasing commodification of healthcare. Do you think it's going to affect the welfare state model of India after COVID?
well, I know whether it will affect or not. Indeed, it is already affected. Without COVID, with COVID, it has already affected. The market has gone everywhere. When you are sick, you are basically now within the grasp of the market. You cannot avoid that. But market doesn't always mean bad thing. Only thing what you need to do, you need to harness the market. I expected that. I still expect that the policymakers, even the people themselves, will think about how to harness the market, how to know how to come about better policies to harness the market. আহ, আমাদের যেন এই যে দেখলাম যে কোভিড পিরিয়ডে তার কোভিড হয়েছে কি হয়নি, তাকে আইসিইউতে ঢুকিয়ে সে মরে যাচ্ছে, তাকে 3 দিন পরে জানাচ্ছে। মানুষ বুঝতে পারছে না যে সেই লোকটার জন্য আমি যে স্বাস্থ্য সেবাটা কিনছি, আমি কি যতটা দরকার ততটাই কিনছি, না আমাকে জোর করে বেশি কেনানো হচ্ছে। এটা কোনোদিনই মানুষ বুঝতে পারবে না, যেহেতু তাদের মধ্যে তথ্যের বৈষম্য রয়েছে, অসাম্যতা রয়েছে। সুতরাং সেদিক থেকে একমাত্র যদি সরকার, বা আমি শুধু সরকার বলবো কেন, এমনকি মানুষের মধ্যেও বা কমিউনিটি forum, if there is a community forum, if the NGOs are come up with their, then probably some this aggression can be counterbalanced. কিন্তু
Thank
it will affect. It has already affected. It will affect.
We have no more questions. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. We are looking forward to hear from you more in future. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this brings us to the end of session 1 of day 3 of this annual conference. Thank you everyone for your kind attention. We shall be convening again in 30 minutes time at 5:30 p.m. for the second session. Thank you so much.